Excellent. Okay, so what we want to talk to you today about is how to build your cybersecurity teams with diversity, particularly women, that it can increase your bottom line, that it can be good for your business, regardless of your EDI strategies.
Keep going.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So many distractions.
No.
So what we like to have is a discussion, just a fireside chat around our partnership with Microsoft, how we, through intention, decided that diversity in cybersecurity in Canada in the labor market was really important. So we'd like to chat about that today. It's a difficult topic sometimes to talk about and engage folks in when we're talking about women in cybersecurity and how to increase diversity within your teams. So if we make mistakes around labels or use some type of reference that you're not particularly comfortable with, it's through those mistakes I think that we gain insight and a comfort level. So we invite you then to discuss that with us as we talk about diversity in cybersecurity. Let's talk about some data, some numbers, some statistics in Canada. By 2025, there will be over 2.2 million digital workers in Canada, but we will also have a need for close to 250,000. And with those numbers, they're almost parallel in cybersecurity. 1 in 6 postings in Canada in cybersecurity remain unfilled. 75% of workers in cybersecurity in Canada are male, and 80% of management are male. And so in 2020, because research is a very big part of ICTC in Canada, I looked specifically at a study that came out of New Brunswick that said 50% of employers who are hiring cybersecurity talent are made up of all men and all Caucasian men. And that, again, in terms of finding talent, they were having a big challenge in doing that. And so in 2020, ICTC and the executive asked me to look at a sector that I could target, that we could look at training at the post-secondary level and what needed to be done particularly to advance diversity within cybersecurity in Canada, particularly for women. And so I put together a committee, ICTC's National Advisory Committee on Cybersecurity Training. We called it an ACT. And it was a group of subject matter experts from academia, from industry, from NGOs, and from all levels of government. And what I tasked them to do was to look at systemic change at the post-secondary level. What would make a difference for those coming into a post-secondary program in terms of training for cybersecurity, that they then choose a pathway forward to a career in cybersecurity. It's a big nut to crack, particularly at the university level. So this committee went to work right away. They looked at 3 topics in particular in cybersecurity. They looked at diversity and barriers to entry. They looked at skills and program gaps in Canada. And they looked at optimal delivery models for training at particularly the university level, because community colleges do a really great job of training for cybersecurity. What they came back with to me was a list of assumptions that needed to be validated in order to make recommendations to the Canadian ecosystem around how to engage and diversify the workforce. I asked and commissioned ICTC's research and policy team to look at those assumptions. And based on that, they looked at they did quite an extensive ecosystem research. The first of its kind really in Canada, looked broadly across Canada what was happening, particularly at the post-secondary level. And what they found was that about half of women who enter cybersecurity training in Canada leave the training at some point during their career. That they don't feel, and this is anecdotally from research that they did through questionnaires of post-secondary students, that because they don't see themselves in cybersecurity, they can't be in cybersecurity because they didn't have math, because they weren't sure that they could compete, because they didn't see opportunities and weren't aware of those opportunities in cybersecurity. As all of you know, for those employers in the audience and for those hiring, it's sometimes a challenge to get women involved with your teams. And so the recommendations were as follows. Let's make the depth and breadth of opportunities in cybersecurity more subject and topic of discussion in Canada. because there are so many opportunities that people aren't aware of. Where do you begin attracting people to cybersecurity? Is it in K-12? Is it in post-secondary? And how do you align that training to what industry requires and therefore what jobs are available in cybersecurity? Another recommendation was we need a Canadian-grown framework to attach those skills to training to jobs available. Because if we use NIST and NICE framework, and I'm sure you're all familiar with that, out of the US it's sort of the regulation globally for cybersecurity and training, that it sometimes misses those jobs that are yet to be invented and for those not codes that we use federally. Also, they said that there needs to be some early labor market attachment for students who are interested in cybersecurity, because they have to ask those questions, they have to have mentorship, and they have to be aware of what's available to them. So as a result of those recommendations, the committee wanted to put a proof of concept into play into the ecosystem. And that's when we had a discussion with Microsoft, who we'd partnered with for several years in some of the programming at ICTC. But in 2022, we came together and said, what can we do to start the discussion around diversity and bring more women potentially into cybersecurity for employment in Canada? So we recruited 40 women, and those that identify women in 2 institutions, TMU, Toronto Metropolitan University of Calgary. We have 4 of our original students with us today who were involved in the project. I encourage you to sort of have a chat with them in terms of how they felt the process went and what they got out of it. But from those 40 women, the committee felt that if you offered short duration training, if you offered early labor market attachment, and you offered work experiential and actual on-the-job experience, would they select a career in cybersecurity? And what we found is that, and you could ask them, and if we have time, they will tell us, that that's in fact what happened. And so we wanted to replicate that formula. We're into a phase 2, but I want to hand this over to Rekha at the moment to talk about Microsoft and how their intention in terms of diversity and building their teams has been a really fantastic opportunity, not only for women, but certainly for Microsoft.
Thank you, Alexandria. Just a quick check, can everybody hear me? Is this working? Okay, awesome. Thanks for the tee-up, and thank you for your partnership with Microsoft Canada over the years as we work together to try to make an impact in this space. As she mentioned, my name is Rekha, and I'm a Director of Partner Technology at Microsoft Canada. I've been leading technical teams inside Microsoft for well over 5 years now, and through that time have worked with really great intention to think about how we can change the gender equation in technical teams. You know, I often see it in some of the hiring loops that I've run, you know, many hiring loops over the years. We're not seeing enough women surface, not just in cybersecurity or cloud security, but even beyond that. Where I wanted to start was just to kind of remind people why diversity is good for business, and particularly with cybersecurity, how it can actually help you improve your security posture. We've all seen what can happen when we don't have diverse input into the problems we're trying to solve. And I think one of the most illustrative examples is, you know, we think about car safety systems. I think we've all seen the story of, you know, when we haven't contemplated the physical difference between a man and a woman when we're designing car safety systems, and the catastrophic outcomes that can result when those safety systems are deployed. And that all goes back to building diversity and inclusion into the process, so we're designing solutions for all. And the phrase I love, and I'm taking it from someone inside of Microsoft, I'm not sure who said it, but I say it all the time, you know, your teams need to be as diverse as the problems that you're trying to solve. Or another way of saying it, your teams need to be as diverse as the customer base that you serve. And I don't think it's debatable anymore. We now have empirical evidence that diversity is good for business. We've seen it over and over again that companies with diverse teams at the leadership level and all levels throughout the company actually, you know, garner better results. And when we think about it from a cybersecurity perspective, you know, this is truly a multidisciplinary field, as you all know, kind of being practitioners in this industry. And we need to have diverse teams to make sure that we're bringing the best solutions possible. You know, I mean, these are obvious things, but I think I need to say it, right? Diversity fosters innovation. Diversity fosters lateral thinking. Diversity fosters more holistic problem solving. When we think about the threat landscape, the more input that we can get from diverse perspectives, the safer that we can actually be. And, you know, if we don't make these changes, what ends up happening, and I see this not just in the security field, but, you know, when we think about, you know, the technological advancements for AI, having a collective blind spot becomes a weakness in the systems that we're trying to design and build for the future. And those can be exploited by nefarious actors if we're not kind of coming at it from multiple angles. So how do we do this? So, the only way to really solve for this is to disrupt the way we think about hiring. We have to move away, and I hear this, I talk to partners all the time, and, the narrative is changing a little bit, but, I'd say over the past few years, what we're hearing is, I need the most senior, most experienced person who can come in and hit the ground running and help me build this practice or help me go deliver for our customers. And we are all fishing from the same pool of talent. So there's a problem there. We just have a capacity challenge, and it also doesn't garner the best results. So we really need to disrupt our thinking on, is that truly what's needed? Do we need experience, or do we need skills and aptitude? And I wanted to just share a quote from our Microsoft CISO and LinkedIn CISO. I was listening to a conversation with them on their point of view on what we're discussing here today. And what they shared is, I'm just going to read this quote, is, their point of view on building the best security team is build a team not of experts, but of intrepid thinkers willing to learn and invest in themselves. And I have seen this proven time and time again that this actually does work. And when we think about moving from experience to skills, ask yourself, what is actually needed? We need people who are inquisitive, people who are process-oriented, people can analyze information, people understand how to use tools, people from diverse backgrounds, from industry specialization. So really ask yourself the hard questions on what skills are actually needed, and you will open up your thinking on what the talent pool could actually look like. So I just wanted to wrap up by just sharing a little bit of how to put this into practice, because it's great to talk about ideas and intention, and then how do you put it into practice? And so what I'm going to share is actually from my own personal experience. So everything I'm going to share here actually works. We need to, at the very beginning of the process, start debunking myths. And I think there's, a whole, set of misperceptions out there of what a career in cybersecurity, what a career in tech actually looks like. It's not you sitting by yourself in front of a computer, not talking to humans all day in a dark room. It is highly collaborative. It is highly creative. There's so many different roles that are actually available in one discipline. So I think we need to really work. So make sure you're sharing that with your networks and your peers so that it's attracting more talent. And I want to emphasize the point I made earlier, moving from that know-it-all to learn-it-all. A know-it-all is not going to set you up for the future. People who really come in with curiosity and, the courage to actually break down problems and come up with solutions is actually how you're going to succeed in the future. The hiring process needs to be built from inclusion from beginning to end, and you might be surprised about what those two bookmarks look like. Beginning is way before you actually post the job, and the end is way after the person is hired. And the experience that I'm going to share with you is some of the tips comes from me doubling the number of females in our technical organization in Canada over the course of years, and from one of our security leads in Microsoft Canada, who took the security team in Microsoft Canada from 0% gender diversity to over 50%. So again, this stuff works. And what we really did was look at the barriers that exist at every step of the process. So I just want to wrap up with maybe kind of 5 things that we've known has worked for us. Is don't buy into that there's a pipeline problem. There isn't a pipeline problem. What there is there's barriers that we put up that stopping people from applying. So something simple I did when I had 2 roles open a year ago now, actually. The job descriptions are very intimidating. Applying to Microsoft is very intimidating. All I did was when I posted my job posting on LinkedIn, I said, please do not self-select out if you don't meet every bullet on this job description. The job description is actually meant to give you an idea of what the job is all about and what you're going to experience. And just by that one simple act, I had the most diverse applicant pool that I've had historically. My recruiter was able to pull up that data for me. And as a result of it, I hired 2 females onto my team who are absolutely killing it. So again, we just need to do simple things and it can actually change the game. Taking a screen-in approach. Okay, then you get the applicants. But then when you're applying that kind of discerning kind of mindset on who are you bringing into the interview, screen in. Look for some differences. Don't say, oh, they don't have 10 years experience, they don't have a master's, they don't have a blah, blah. One of the women I hired recently is an industry hire, no technical experience. She brought deep industry knowledge, problem-solving skills, aptitude. Again, she's leading the way in AI right now within Microsoft. And again, she could have been overlooked if we kind of went with traditional mindset there. Don't trick people during the interview and make them sweat. I think we need to really upend how we think about interview tactics. Interviews should be, psychologically safe environments, and especially when we're looking for underrepresented kind of people to come out of the woodwork. They're not going to thrive in those types of environments. And I also see this from a personal perspective. If I'm in an interview and I am being subject to a power over type of dynamic in an interview, I am going to clam up. That's because of the way I was raised. I was raised in a culture where hierarchy is really celebrated. If a man is going to be speaking over and trying to spot my weaknesses, I'm going to shut down because that's how I was raised. That has nothing to do with how I show up under pressure. I have been in some of the most complex customer support scenarios where the stakes are high, the pressure is on, time isn't on our side, and I can be so level-headed, so calm and cool and collected, and logic my way through these really high, intense scenarios. And that would never show up in an interview if you're trying to, let me see if I can make them sweat. So again, really, really rethink how we, ourselves in these interviews. Actually, something I do is I actually share the topics in advance. I create a level playing field for people to say, hey, this is what you can expect in the interview process. They come prepared, they know what they want to talk about, they have the relevant examples and stories. I have 100% success rate in doing this. And people really but that's cheating. It's not cheating. We all have information that's available to us. So I just, again, encourage you to think differently about that. And, finally, the interview experience should reflect, the culture of your organization, right? So again, if you want to be inclusive in your hiring loops, is your panel diverse? Do you have women, if you attract them, do you have women on your panel? It's a really important thing for them to see. I create psychological safety at the beginning of my interview. I'm like, I'm not here to test you. This is not an exam. This is an opportunity for us to learn about each other, to see if there's a great fit here. So again, I really encourage you to think about that. And the feedback I've gotten on the tone that I said in interviews has been really possible. So, these are simple things. It's all within our reach, and this is how change is actually made. And I wanted to hand it over to my amazing colleague here, Hannah, who's been on the other side of the hiring process at Microsoft recently, and I wanted to share her thoughts.
Hi folks, can you hear me? Test, test, 1, 2, amazing. So it's a pleasure to be here today. My name's Hannah Wood, and I'm a cloud solution architect at Microsoft. And I wanted to talk to you folks about my journey and how I found Microsoft. How did I find cyber? I couldn't even spell. I did a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, and the only way that I learned the word engineering was when I was in grade 12. And this engineering student, female, came into my classroom and said, "Hi, my name is X and I'm in engineering." And so when I heard that, I was like, oh my goodness, there's engineering's a possibility, and all I could see was nursing and medicine as an avenue for me. And fast forward 4 years, I then finished my electrical engineering degree, and I attended a conference, and I met someone kind of over like this over here at a career fair, and it was another woman, and she said, "Hi, my name is X, and I am in cybersecurity." And at that point, I had never really heard of cybersecurity as an avenue. Being in an electrical engineering, working in hardware, I didn't really know what exactly cybersecurity was, but she talked about her journey and the people and kind of the problems that she was tasked to solve. And at a certain point, I realized, I was like, okay, so engineering is about problem solving, cyber is about problem solving, and hardware and software come together in cyber, ultimately to secure whatever from 0 to 100 people, processes. There's so much more that I realized that cyber is inclusive of, and it really, representation makes you feel heard, seen, and accepted in an environment. And if that doesn't exist, it's really hard to even see yourself there and to want to be there. So representation has meant everything to me. My journey at Microsoft as a new grad was rather untraditional. I didn't have an inclusive hiring process, but I did have a non-traditional one. So I would say that my first manager at Microsoft that I had, he had my back. So Max did a lot of things that I commend him for. Some of the actions, just the mindset, the way that he shows up. He intentionally builds his network with like-minded people that understand who he's looking for. So instead of looking for a diverse hire, he reaches out to his network and says, hey, I'm looking to hire someone. And because his brand is so strong that people know who he is and they know who he hires, that the pool that he gets, the people that he receives are inherently diverse individuals, of people with different abilities, backgrounds, people with that are neurodivergent, different abilities. It just really ends up being just a normal pool for him. And I think that's one thing that really surprised me when I called him yesterday and I said, hey, listen, Max, like, I'm going to be on this panel and I don't know how, I know kind of in essence how I got hired, but how did I actually, what was your process? And he said, listen, I got to a point in my career where I don't need to ask people for diverse candidates. They give it to me because that's who I am and that's the brand and team I want to build and I have been building. So I have a connection that knew Max, that was hired by Max, that actually put forth my name. And that candidate was a part of Kevin McGee, so Microsoft's this one guy said, hey, this is what I want to see for Microsoft Canada, and that's what I'm going to do. So I am a trickle down, a ripple effect of that initial initiative by this one individual, and then empowered further by my supervisor. So beyond my journey, I think it's one thing I kind of came in knowing that I was a diverse hire, I'll be honest. It was something that I knew, and I'm not really ashamed of it. I think that knowing that you're being hired intentionally, I don't think that you can kind of smell, you know when the person on the other end of the line is hiring you because you're diverse and you're a checkbox, or because they have strategically understood the outcomes that are required to build a diverse team and the outcomes that will drive impact. So I'm from the East Coast. Community is everything.
Go East Coast.
Yeah, everyone from our panel here today is originally from the East Coast. So for me, community is everything. And I think that that's something as a woman, and from the East Coast, in engineering, that kind of rise and grind kind of attitude, community ends up being everything, and I think that's what I tried to build for myself and for others around me. So within the Microsoft office, I know most, if not everyone in the office, I go in and I say hi, and it's a remote office. Like, people come in, put their headsets on, and work all day and don't talk to anyone. But I think what's important is you have to kind of go outside of that box. And I think the best compliment I ever received this past summer was from, I mentored an intern. So less than a year within Microsoft, I had a mentee, and she said, you made me feel supported and welcomed. And I think that is the biggest compliment I could ever receive. And overall, I believe this is a systematic change. The reason why I'm in this space is not a huge corporate initiative. It's because someone decided, you know what, I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to build contingency into my plan. I'm going to offload or load on the work on my current staff, so this person can ramp up, so this person can get the skills, because I understand that I hired someone that may not be ready to hit the ground. But I'm building this into my plan for my team so that later on in the year they can have a break. So, to quote a colleague, seeing someone acknowledge diversity and is doing something about it, sometimes that's enough for me, and it's been enough for a lot of other women.
Thanks, Hannah. That was awesome. Just wanted to chat a little bit about, because I want you to leave here today with a plan, maybe, in terms of how to diversify your team. But you're saying, yeah, but it's Microsoft. And they have all kinds of resources to make this happen, and maybe not a lot of risk in the game. But if you think about one person, and I think it's sort of the thread through the discussion that we've had, it's around intention, right? Of one person planning ahead and seeing the impact that diversity and hiring women for your cybersecurity teams will change and make a difference. So I want to chat a little bit about this pilot that we're working with Microsoft and what success means to the pilot and how we're moving forward. The ENACT committee, we have a member actually here with us today, Lee Morris from New Brunswick, JEDI, Joint Economic Development Initiative. He's been with us for a couple of years now. And again, it only takes one person to drive this agenda forward. So what we did at the pilot, what we recognized early was that if we provided them with industry content, with foundational training to young women, and we recruited them into a program that allowed them strength in numbers, to be able to support one another, but to be able to see what the impact they could have on the industry. When they could see mentorship, when they could feel that they belonged, when there was an opportunity for them to actually gain employment, it makes a huge difference. Because there's 4 young women here today who participated in phase 1 of our program, our pilot from TMU. So not only did they enroll, not only did they take on the accountability and responsibility of getting certified in the Microsoft Learning Pathways, not only did they have a mentor and they had to find themselves work in the cybersecurity sector, but these 4 young women started the WESIS student chapter at TMU to further allow them to support one another, right? So WESIS is the Women in Global Security. It's an organization that features a lot of professional women across the globe, and they get together and they make folks aware of what's available for them in cybersecurity, and they support women as a result of that. They have student chapters all across the world, and what we asked them to do and take the responsibility for was to set up a chapter. So along with all of their program work they did at the university level, along with all of the components of the program we asked them to enroll in, they took the initiative to then start the student chapter on campus, which continues today, and we have in fact another 50 students enrolled from TMU for the second phase of our pilot. So when they see the opportunities in cybersecurity, not only will they sort of meet that, not only will they rise to that occasion, but they'll go further, right? They will take opportunities that are given to them, they'll take initiative. It's fascinating and wonderful to see what sort of the intention in terms of diversity and bringing more women into cybersecurity at the post-secondary level has done. So what we'd like to do now at ICTC and Microsoft, in partnership actually with the digital supercluster, is to increase the regions that this pilot is available. We're now in 6 regions across Canada. We're recruiting 150 students this fiscal, 150 next. And what we're hoping to do is for those students, once they go through the components of the program, once they understand the value of the program, the pilot, and what's available to them, that then the word of mouth will spread. Because again, it's the intention of those folks who we get involved, because they take initiative, because they become aware, because they see opportunity, they spread that word. So our measures of success in this is for those folks to continue and have a career in cybersecurity after their training at university. I just want to get one of them to sort of tell the audience the impact that they've had, that this pilot has had on them, and how it's changed potentially their career. So I'm going to get Harmanpreet Multani to come up. I'm going to hand her a mic. She can just, oh, there we go. Carmen, come. Hop up here. Atta girl.
Hi guys, my name is Harmon, and I'm actually the first president, and one of the first founders of the WISA student group at Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University, for those who may not know. I got the opportunity to be the first president, and I honestly put my leadership skills to that test because we literally had no clue what we were doing at the first place. We were literally just thrown into something that was a pilot at first, and we were kind of the guinea pigs, and we had Calgary kind of riding our backs as well at the same time, because like we were doing something and they were following us as well. So that was a little bit of a process. Even getting registered or even getting recognized at the university, it was much harder. Even though we had Microsoft, the government, ICTC working with us, it was still a lengthy process. But honestly, the student chapter, the girls that honestly became a part of us, it's a girlhood. Everyone has your back. If you're studying for the AZ900, ST900, which I did get during my placement, it's like, hey, I'm studying, I need some help, let me know. And right away, someone will hop on the call and literally just will study a group, even if it's 12 o'clock at night. We're all there for each other. And then honestly, I got really lucky. I got to work with one of Microsoft's partners, actually, Longview Systems. And I got a great director, and he helped me out quite a bit, be able to learn what cybersecurity really is, as Rekha actually said. I thought cybersecurity was literally just like sitting in a computer in a dark room and just typing away. But he literally showed me so many different avenues. The pre-sales, the architectural flow diagrams, literally every little nick and cranny that was available to me, I was able to go through it because of him. And he was so open to even having me in like meetings with like executives. So I got to learn how to communicate with them, as well as be like, hey, I think I can add on to this value if you allow me to do this. And not only just because I have the certification or I'm the president, is because I want to do it and I want to further my skills. So, which is kind of, I wouldn't have been able to do it only if Alexandria wouldn't have given me this opportunity, or Rekha, which is honestly, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Thanks for that. But what I'm interested in actually hearing from you is, what has this pilot impacted your life to the point where you're thinking about a career in cybersecurity? Are we on the right track? Because that's really what we want to know, right? What's your measure of success? And our measure of success is different. But what I want to hear from the women who participate is, yep, this is enough for me to say I'm interested in moving forward in cybersecurity. Because if we don't change that dynamic, right? If we don't change those ratios of 75% male employees in cybersecurity and 80% management, then we'll never have the diversity that can pay off, as Rekha mentioned in the bottom line. So I'm just going to get you in a couple of seconds to do that. I'm going to hand it right back over to Rekha.
Yeah, so really quick, honestly, personally, I never thought cybersecurity would be something I would do firsthand off the bat, but I actually got hired as a permanent full-time student right away right now at Longview because of this opportunity. So I was really grateful for that. So honestly, seeing a career in this 100%, thanks to you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, I probably would have been like a consultant somewhere. Not even anything related to this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Harmon. And hand that right back over. Yeah. So Rekha's just going to really bring us home around what makes a difference in diversity in cybersecurity, what you can take away from Microsoft's viewpoint, and then how you can start today thinking about diversity and implementing that in your teams.
Thanks, Alexandria. And I had a few things that I did want to say, but I wanted to pick up on a couple of points. So one is just seeing what's possible here. Like, I am so energized. Like, I didn't hear what Harmon had to say before today. And that is a change that we can actually replicate. You know, Hannah talked about the ripple effect, right? So, you know, instead of trying to tackle, I've been on this journey, right? It's like, you can't change the system all at once. It happens one change at a time. And what Alexandria was just saying, you know, now we're debunking myths and we're attracting amazing talent like Hannah and Harm to the profession. For the hiring managers in the room, for the people that are weighing in on hiring, we need you to really disrupt your thinking. And I come from both sides of that coin. And listen, I had discovered a lot of bias about myself as I really dug into this journey. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about bias at this stage of the process, bias at this stage of the process. And so I just really encourage you. It's a very rewarding journey if you go on it. So again, I just, you know, one of the things that, you know, I catch people on is like, oh, I can't really take a bet on this person. Don't say take a bet, say you choose to invest. because we actually all have a role to play in building the workforce of the future. We got to be a little bit more longer term focused as we think about the opportunity that we have in front of us, not just in cybersecurity and what we need to actually like secure the landscape that we're talking about, but just more broadly. And you can play a role in building that workforce of the future if you move that mindset of, you know, take a bet to choose to invest. There was another point I want to pick up on. You know, Hannah referred to herself as a diverse hire, which I understand. I think we also need to step away from that. Like, yes, you, of course, you know, you weren't a checkbox hire, but the language I use is diversity is now a dimension by which I assess during the hiring process, because it brings a needed thing to my team. It makes my team better, right? And so if you think about it as something that you add instead of something like a checkbox that you're fulfilling, it just reframes, you know, your self-perception as well. So I just wanted to say that. So we talked about hiring. I said it doesn't end with hiring. That's just the beginning. That's where we have to make some serious investment to really set people up for success that we bring onto the team, because it can't be like, oh, okay, now it's your sink or swim moment. Go figure it out. The journey just begins. So a couple things that I've done to, you know, set people up for success is, you know, leverage model. You know, taking somebody, you know, Harman, sounds like you had a great experience with the director at Longview. I love that. I'm going to be talking to them about that story now that I know it. With great intention, pair people up. And I don't just mean, okay, can you be the mentor for so-and-so? Because I get feedback from people that saying, I'm not really getting much out of it. What I said to one of the senior folks on my team is, part of what I'm going to assess you on from your performance is, you know, have you set this person up to go deliver in a self-sufficient way by the end of this year? That is what I'm holding you to, senior person. It's not dabbling. You're actually with great, and then he's like, okay, I got this. I got it. Now I know what I need to go do. So again, like, raise the bar, right? You know, tell people what they really need to do to invest. And I'm going to zip through my things here. You know, just want to double down on just putting the proper support structures in place. Don't just bring people and say, come shadow me. Do the pre-brief, do the debrief. Like, tell them what they're supposed to be picking up on to accelerate their learning curve. Empower people. I heard a lot of empowerment here. Give people opportunity to lead. Let them make mistakes. Give them the support to learn and fail, and you know, and that really actually accelerates their impact. And really, it's enabling, supporting, learning, kind of trifecta that makes this all happen. So, those are my final thoughts. Are we out of time? Does Hannah have time to make a few?
We are out of time,
okay.
But I am going to get just a parting and closing remark from each of you. I want to challenge you to come to our booth. We're at 214 number 1. And if there are those of you who want an easy access and maybe an on-ramp to diversity in your teams, then come be an employer for us in our pilot. There are 5 regions and 6 regions across Canada with universities. We have 150 students that are going to be working with employers in cybersecurity. If this is your sort of moment, if this is the first day of the rest of your life in terms of diversity on your team, then come. We will place you with a student. We will offer you some wonderful matches, as there were during phase 1. It gives you an opportunity to see and to look at some of the things and the policies and the implementations that Microsoft has done at your level. With little expense to you, if you're eligible, we also include a wage subsidy for you as well. So if that's an opportunity for you to start today to build diversity into your team. And I'm just going to give 20 seconds, 30 seconds to my fellow speakers up here just for closing remarks. Thank you for coming. It was fantastic, and thanks for your attention.